why do you want to throw yourself
Oh,
back
I
in
know.
that ring? It's brutal out there.
It is glutton for punishment. I guess it's because I love the city, and I think our city has so much more that it could offer and become with just a little bit of effort, particularly for our youth. I was in, you remember when I ran for mayor 2 years ago, and this is city council as opposed to mayor. I'm not running for mayor. There are those that are circulating rumors that I'm running for mayor. I have no intention for running for mayor. I'm running for District 4. So that's this district has so many complicated issues, but they parallel the city in so many ways because it's part of the city. The issues are just more compact in the district, and I feel like there is an opportunity to at least do some things in the district that I'd like to try to accomplish. One, in the area of crime. Crime is so prevalent in Modesto right now to a greater degree than what we've expected before, and there are some ways to work and help solve some of our issues of crime. Our problems with the economy have diminished somewhat, but the overall job difficulties that we are having and have had, not only for the last couple of years, but since the economy turned down, beginning was really evident in '06. There are things we need to do in Modesto to generate jobs and diversify our economy. And then certainly for the budget and the issues that are going on in the budget. And I guess going back to your question, why in the world would I want to do that? One, I have children here that live here. I have a lot of friends that live here. The biggest thing that drives me are changing our future so that there is a hope for a better economy, particularly for our youth. That would be our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. That's what drives me more than anything else. And then when I look at Modesto and the opportunities that we could do some things to make it different than all the other cities. And we have, the gentleman before us was talking about Love Modesto, and that's a drop in the bucket of what has been accomplished and what we could accomplish. So because of that, that's the reason why. Not for myself. In fact, for me, it'll probably be a challenge for me economically because I have to direct my focus away from my business and my businesses more so than I would like to. But that's a sacrifice, and I'm willing to do that and eager to get started on something.
Where exactly is District 4? For the people who may be viewing from Merced to Sacramento, Modesto just seems like one big place.
Yeah, it is, and even people in Modesto, probably most people in Modesto don't understand where all the districts are because it is a new phenomenon. District 4 was one of the first districts that was established because it took a couple of elections for the cycle to get through. But District 4 largely is, if you imagine Yosemite Boulevard, it'd be everything north with the exception of the airport district. In the airport district, that would be the areas around the airport, they're part of that's county, part of it's city. So the city portions are in District 4. And if you were to go all the way to the east of Yosemite, where it ends, just right at the edge of downtown, so it crosses over Dry Creek, it pretty much follows Dry Creek to the intersection of where Scenic exists, and it jumps up and picks up everything south of Scenic, all the way to Rose Avenue. At Rose Avenue, this will get a little complicated, so stick with me if you can follow it in your mind. From Rose Avenue, it works its way up to Wiley, and Wiley works it up through zigzags. Eventually, at Oakdale and Orangeburg, it runs up to Briggsmore, then Briggsmore all the way down to Lakewood, then Lakewood down to Orangeburg, then Orangeburg all the way out almost to the edge of town, and zigzags across through a few streets, and then down to Yosemite. So right in the heart of Modesto.
And it includes the La Loma neighborhood,
and it
right?
includes the La Loma neighborhood, includes the Sonoma neighborhood.
Okay.
It includes Lincoln Estates, Wycliffe. I'm forgetting somebody out there, I'm sure.
Well, this isn't the Academy Awards,
yeah,
so
okay,
we'll have
yeah.
you back.
Okay. But that's the neighborhoods, and probably the most dominant feature is the oldest. One of the oldest in Modesto is the La Loma neighborhood, and which we're fortunate to have. I mean, it's a great great neighborhood in Modesto. They're trying to get organized, do things themselves about crime, not wait for other things and or other governments to step in. They're doing things themselves to turn some of the issues around their own neighborhood. Great neighborhood.
I have a question about city and county. A minute ago you were talking about the airport district, and some is county and some is city.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you serving on the city council will improve the relationships between the city council and the board of supervisors concerning county islands and getting those county islands annexed into the city?
Into the city. That's a goal that I think everyone would want, including the county, would want to have. Yeah, a little background on that, and part of the challenge is most of those communities were built before, or were not built under the standards that Modesto has. Now that's real estate language. When we say standards, that means a certain level of public facilities that were built. That would be your sidewalk, how it's designed, the street width, whether you have curbs and gutters and sidewalks, and many of the county areas did not, and as well as lot width, whether there's water and sewer. So a lot of the county pockets, and the airport, adjacent to the airport neighborhood specifically, is some of the worst. It was settled during the Dust Bowl days. People couldn't afford to put in sidewalks, curb and gutter, and so they were allowed to build, and they would have a 1 acre lot or less, half-acre lot, and they put a septic tank on one side and a well on the other. Not the most healthy way to get your drinking water, and so without curb and gutters, and you can drive through the county airport district, and you can see the county pockets, because they're largely the areas without any curb and gutter, though they do have sewer and water now. You can see the transition is not at all complete. So for the city to take that on, there's a big misunderstanding in the public. They think that the city puts in curb, gutter, sidewalk, streets, all of those improvements. That's put in always now. There are exceptions in major streets and capital facility areas and other sorts. I say community facility districts and other areas, but it's largely put in by whoever developed the subdivision, and that's sold. It's built into the cost of the lot. So the city never has had that kind of money to put in streets, gutters, curbs, and sidewalks in those areas.
So if they are annexed into the city, does that mean
the city would have to find the money to put that in?
Okay.
And if they don't, then they kind of eke along in time, trying to come up with grants. The federal government at times comes up with some grants, and the city can access them.
I have a question. Is it the squeaky wheel that gets the grease concerning the sidewalks and gutters, or is it done by a priority on the list?
I'm sure it's priority based on funding, because even in the particularly nowadays, our general fund is where that would come out of. There's a term called enterprise funds. Enterprise funds are specific funds that generate certain revenues for those funds, usually from the population through taxation of one form or another. For instance, your water and sewer and storm drain, those are all enterprise funds, and you pay every month your water bill, and it includes your garbage and your water and sewer and some storm drain maintenance in it. That money goes specifically for that. Can be used for nothing else. You can't take enterprise funds and commingle it, put it in with a general fund. So most of the business that we all, with the exception of when there's an issue with water, sewer, and a few other things, most of the business that Modesto operates with and that we hear about comes out of the general fund. And the general fund largely has been running at very close, a very tight budget. In fact,
You're being kind.
I know. I'm trying to be polite.
Well, I have a question about the
Yes.
enterprise funds.
Yes.
How much is in there? Is it a slush fund, or is that
enterprise
running
is
close,
not. No,
close to the wire too?
Yeah, no. Enterprise funds have the freedom to build up certain amounts of reserves. They cannot use the money for other things.
What is in there now? I mean,
enterprise, water, sewer, storm drain.
I mean, dollars and cents. Is there enough in there to
I think-
annex something and actually pay for it, or Or would Modesto say annex some of those county islands and then say, oh, sorry, we don't have the money to do anything?
Yeah, and they could not use enterprise funds that I know of. If I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll hear it. I do not know of a way you could use enterprise funds for expanding the district. You would have to use other funds within, for instance, water, sewer, and sidewalks.
And where would they get those funds?
That's where
Is it the general fund?
the general fund. Therein lies the problem.
Yeah,
So unless they can
okay.
come up with a grant that comes from the federal government or the state government, or there's some windfall from something else and it becomes a priority, they say, well, let's go do this. Or in some neighborhoods, they've actually formed capital facility districts. And there's probably another term. I think there's another term. But what that means is they form their own taxation district within a community, and in order to put in curb, gutter, sidewalk, street lights.
And who do they pay that to? Do
They pay,
it to the
it's
city?
collected as a tax, it goes to the city, and that helps pay for it.
That sounds vaguely
Specifically-
familiar to the golf courses, how they put a taxation similar like that to themselves and paid it to the city, but then, that money is now somewhere. So what guarantees, and I know I'm putting you on the spot
No,
here,
you're not. Yeah,
but
it's fun.
if the neighborhood does form this tax base of their own and put that, say, an extra $1 every month per household into a fund and they give it to the city to hold, what if 3 years from now the city goes,
Can they rate it? Is that what-
no, well, I'm asking, what if the neighborhood says, okay, we've got enough money in there according to our books, we want to put in sidewalks, for instance, and the city goes, oh, it's not here. It got put into the general fund and we use the general fund for something else.
There would probably be people that could go to jail if it was obvious, if it was something like that, and if it wasn't obvious, it would be I don't know of that happening. Now, someone out there may be listening, say, we know of one. I'd like to know, because I don't know of that having ever happened. Now, that's somewhat a newer phenomenon, where a number of years ago I heard some similar things where they borrowed the money, and it's still there, and then it became an issue, you had to pay it back. And in fact,
Well,
there was an issue in the water, just specifically, I remember there was a group of citizens in Modesto because the water fund had been borrowed. And so a group of citizens came together and said, we're going to sue you, city, if you don't put it back. And so they worked out a plan, and over a number of years, they started paying it back.
The city started paying them back?
Paying back the fund from their general fund. In other words, they borrowed it for other uses because it had grown and was not on the radar screen. And some citizens said, no, you can't do that, rightfully, and threatened to sue the city. And the city said, you're right, we'll pay it back, but give us a few years to do that. So they did that. In fact, during the boom years, they paid some of those funds back. And since you're making me think about it, I haven't thought about that for a while, that's worth checking in. Where are we at on that payback? That was out of the water fund, as I recall.
How?
And so that's what should happen. Citizens rise up and the city can do that. Now, I don't know that happens, is happening right now.
So how dollar and cents savvy and scrutinizing are you personally? So if you get on the city council, are you going to be our ears and eyes to watch some of those monies? If
That's with it, yeah, that's the task of the council as a whole, is to represent the citizens in the community. Now, a better thing is no one on the council knows everything. It's impossible to really collapse all of the information and contain it and be able to articulate it and deliver that information out easily. The best thing is having a good open government to get that information out to the citizens, because there are people out there that are really good at keeping track of this stuff. And they need to let their elected representative or any person on the council know when there's things that have gone awry, and to get that information out is probably a best thing a city government can do. I know the Modesto Bee has even been pushing about open government, and I very much agree with them.
if we would like to help the city become more open with their government, what is the best avenue to take? just going before the city council, or are there other meetings that we should attend, maybe finance committee meetings and so forth?
Yeah, I would say the best thing is to keep reminding the city of it, especially when they get a little off to the side. And again, everyone doesn't like to read the agenda every single week and follow it through, but look at it and see if there's things and make it known. And hold a council to task when they're not doing what they need to be doing. And again, the advantage of open government, the advantage of having that information out there, and the advantage of doing it timely, because jurisdictions sometimes don't release things when it really needs to, and then by the time we get it, we've all forgotten, and then the interest and the momentum is it holds the government accountable. And there are people out there that have a natural inclination to grasp information and get that circulated through our community, and certainly hold the elected officials accountable and talk to them. Sometimes elected officials just don't even know because it's happened. It's in such a manner that it got past them. I've seen that happen. Something happened where it was unintentional. They didn't know. As soon as they found out, they hit the ceiling and unwound the problem.
Well, I look forward to having you back on. The election is still a little ways away.
Still a little ways, yes.
The closer we get, the more intricate questions I'll be asking you. So I hope you come back.
Oh, I'd love to come back.
Where can we find you, either on Facebook, website,
I do
or
have a
meet and
Facebook.
greet, maybe?
We will be scheduling some new meet and greets. We actually had a kickoff here a while back, and we're getting ready. We'll announce those on Facebook as they are solidified, and at different functions. League of Women Voters and others will, I'm sure, have debates and those kinds of meetings that people can come to. But I am on Facebook, and I can also be reached at bill@billformodesto.com.
Thank
The
you.
number 4, modesto.com.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much.
I
It's
look
good
forward
see
to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. I do too.
Okay, bye-bye.